Now, let's turn to the situation in the Middle East, and officials in Gaza have accused Israeli forces of shooting at a crowd of Palestinians waiting for aid in Gaza City, saying that at least 20 people have been killed. The Hamas-run health ministry says more than 150 others were injured. The Israeli military says it did not open fire. Meanwhile, a jetty has been built on the Gaza coastline, which is thought will be used to offload aid from the Open Arms charity ship. This satellite image was taken on Tuesday. You can see there the earth being piled out over the beach. And this satellite image was taken a few hours later on the same day. You can see the jetty extending out into the sea with what appears to be a road leading towards it. When the Open Arms ship does eventually dock, it will start to distribute a cargo of 200 tons of food and medical aid. Further shipments are expected in the coming weeks. Here you can see warehouses in Cyprus with aid waiting to be loaded. Well, we can speak now to our correspondent, Anna Foster, who's in Jerusalem.
Morning, Catherine. I'm in East Jerusalem this morning outside Damascus Gate, where worshippers are starting to arrive already for Friday prayers, the first Friday prayers of Ramadan. It's traditionally been a time of tension. There have been violent clashes here before. And what's interesting this morning is the Israeli security forces have a very wide cordon set up. In fact, when you look at the worshippers who are arriving, many of them have come from checkpoints through the occupied West Bank this morning. You won't see anybody here over the age of 10 or under the age of 50. 10 to 50-year-olds have been excluded from worshipping here today as attempts are made to try and keep this peaceful. Of course, it's happening against the backdrop of the war in Gaza. You mentioned the incident there that was last night at the Kuwait roundabout in Gaza. Now, the Hamas-run health ministry said that 20 people had been killed and more than 150 had been injured. They said it was people sheltering potentially in a container waiting for a delivery of aid. They were questioning whether an airstrike, for example, might have hit the container. Now, Israel very quickly denied that. They said that reports that this was an IDF attack were false, and they said that they would be carrying out a thorough assessment of the situation. Of course, all of this, as we were saying, happens against the backdrop of Ramadan, of prayers and of tension in this area in particular. And I was speaking to an imam at the mosque in Bethlehem, Imam Abed Al-Majid Atta, and he just explained a little more about why we see these tensions here during Friday prayers at Ramadan.
I was imam in Al-Aqsa Mosque, and I was arrested from there several times, and I am prevented from going there. So the walls stop you, the checkpoints stop you, the soldiers stop you. You need special permission. Special permission only from the Israeli security. The Israeli security doesn't give anyone.
Now, of course, there are still calls for a humanitarian ceasefire to take place. Hamas said last night that it had put forward what it called a vision for an agreement that it had put to peace talk mediators in Qatar. They said that they were still pushing for things like Palestinians to be able to return to their homes, for a full withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza. Israel, for its part, said that Hamas was still making what it called unrealistic demands, and that was echoed by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu when he met families of people who were still being held hostage last night, and he said that work was continuing still to try and secure their release. Of course, one of the reasons that this humanitarian ceasefire is being pushed for is that the aid situation in Gaza is so desperate at the moment. Now, world leaders, humanitarian groups have made it very clear that more aid needs to reach Gaza by road. There is no substitute for that. We've seen airdrops, and we've also seen, as you were saying, Catherine, this boat with 200 tons of aid aboard. Important, of course, but nowhere near the scale that aid needs to be received at. That's now visible off the coast of Gaza. It's been sailing from Cyprus over the last few days. It'll be the first aid to be received by sea during this conflict. So we'll continue to watch that as well over the next few hours here on BBC News. So stay with us. Back to you, Catherine.
Anna, thank you very much. That's the BBC's Anna Foster there in Jerusalem.